If you saw a man strike a baby elephant, what would you do? Call for help or walk away? At the edge of a worn-down sanctuary in Georgia, a group of tourists froze as a sharp cry rang out. Dust flew, a bucket clattered to the ground, and a young elephant stumbled back in fear. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. Alec wasn't supposed to be near animals, not after what happened last year. At 38, he was serving community service after a reckless driving charge that left one man injured. Assigned to the sanctuary instead of prison time, he showed up late, spoke little, and wore resentment like armor. "I shovel, I don't babysit elephants," he told the staff on day one. He wasn't cruel, just angry, always on edge, especially around Moyo, the youngest elephant. Mayo had been rescued from a traveling circus 6 months earlier, where chains had scarred his ankles and fear ruled his every breath. Now, even the smallest shout made him flinch. Alec never looked him in the eye. The morning heat was unbearable when it happened. Alec was moving hay when Moyo nudged him gently from behind, maybe out of curiosity, maybe fear. Startled, Alec spun around, his voice sharp, his arm moving fast. His open hand smacked the calf's shoulder before he even realized what he'd done. The tourists nearby gasped. A child cried. One staff member ran toward them, shouting Alec's name. But Moyo didn't cry out, he just stood there, stunned, his ears pulled tight against his body. For a second, the world went silent. Then Alec took one step back, his face pale, like he had struck a part of himself. Later, Alec sat on the steps behind the feeding barn, hands shaking. "It was instinct," he mumbled to no one. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. He wasn't afraid of Moyo, he was afraid of what the elephant saw in him. Weakness, shame, the same look his own son had given him in court. Moyo didn't hide or run. Instead, he followed Alec that afternoon at a cautious distance, like he was waiting for something. The staff noticed, unsure whether to intervene or let it play out. Elephants don't forget, they said, but sometimes they forgive. Alec wasn't sure which path this calf would take. That night, Alec couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Moyo's gaze wide, silent, too knowing. Not angry, not afraid, just disappointed. He'd seen that look once before in a hospital hallway after the crash. It was the moment his life had begun to unravel. The next morning, Alec arrived early. No one expected him to. He grabbed a feed bucket, walked past the others, and found Moyo near the water trough. The young elephant froze. Alec didn't speak, just sat down on the dirt, not too close, and waited. 1 minute passed, then 2. Then came a sound that stopped his breath. A slow, soft trumpet. Not loud, not panicked, just a breathy sigh, like the beginning of something fragile. Moyo had acknowledged him. Not with trust, not yet, but with a chance. And that, Alec knew, was more than he deserved. Alec didn't speak of the slap, and no one forced him to, but something shifted after that day. He stopped avoiding Moyo. He cleaned the calf's enclosure without complaint, sometimes even humming something no one had heard from him before. Still, the guilt sat heavy on his shoulders. Moyo's injury made every step uneven. His back leg dragged slightly, and his skin was still marked from the old restraints. During bathing time, he stayed behind the others, watching from a distance, unsure if the water meant relief or punishment. Alec noticed and began staying behind too. The first time Alec approached with a sponge, Moyo flinched. The second time, he stayed still. By the third, the calf lowered his head slightly, allowing the touch. Alec moved slow, circling the tiny body like it might shatter. Behind them, a volunteer whispered, "That's the closest he's let anyone get." But not everyone was convinced. One of the senior keepers, Janice, cornered Alec by the hay barn. "You mess up one more time," she said coldly, "and you're gone for good. No warnings." Alec nodded, shame burning in his chest. He didn't tell her that her threat hurt less than Moyo's quiet forgiveness. That week, Moyo stopped following the herd during feedings. He waited at the edge until Alec appeared. He wouldn't eat until the man sat nearby. "He trusts you," one staff member said. Alec shook his head. "No. He's watching me, making sure I don't mess up again." And maybe he was right. The tension rose when a reporter showed up unannounced. Word had gotten out about the incident, and someone had leaked a photo of Alec with Moyo. The sanctuary's board panicked. "We can't have a man with a record and a scandal becoming the face of this place," Janice said, arms crossed. Alec was told to stay away from Moyo during visitor hours. "It's just for optics," they said. But Moyo didn't understand optics. He cried out when Alec didn't come during breakfast, pacing the fence until his voice turned hoarse. Staff tried to comfort him, but he wouldn't calm down. Watching from the shed, Alec clenched his fists. "He thinks I left him," he whispered. The decision came suddenly, like ripping off a bandage. He grabbed a brush and ducked under the rope line, ignoring the protests. Tourists watched as the man knelt beside the crying elephant. "He's okay," Alec whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm here." Moyo leaned into his shoulder gently, his breathing slowing. For a moment, everything went quiet again. Alec looked up and saw Janice staring from across the yard. She didn't say a word, but she didn't stop him either. That night, Alec stayed long after the others left. He sat beside Moyo, his back against the fence, talking softly, not about elephants or chores, but about his son, his trial, the accident, the man he used to be. Moyo didn't move. He just listened, like it mattered, like he understood. The next morning, Alec wasn't on the chore list. Instead, he was assigned directly to Moyo. "It's not a reward," Janice said. "It's a test." Alec didn't care what it was. All he knew was that Moyo had started waiting for him, ears flicking, trunk curled low in quiet anticipation. The first breakthrough came during hydrotherapy. Moyo hated the treatment, and Alec knew it. But instead of forcing the calf into the shallow pool, Alec stepped in first shoes and all and waited. Moyo hesitated, then wobbled forward, placing one heavy foot into the water, eyes fixed on the man who stayed. It became a ritual. Every therapy session, Alec led the way. When Moyo stumbled, Alec steadied him. When the pain returned, Alec talked him through it. "One step at a time, little guy," he'd whisper. "We don't quit." And somehow, over weeks, the limp softened. The fear eased. Visitors started noticing. "That elephant only listens to him," one woman said, pointing her phone toward Alec and Moyo moving in tandem. The calf now reached his trunk toward Alec's hands without hesitation. "It's like they've got a secret language," another tourist murmured. Alec didn't correct them, but the past wasn't done with him. One morning, Alec's probation officer showed up unexpectedly. He watched silently from behind the fence, arms folded, eyes cold. "You were court-ordered to be here, not to make friends with an elephant," he said. "This place isn't your redemption story." Alec's hands trembled. That night, he told Moyo everything. The way people didn't believe he could change, the way even he wasn't sure. Moyo leaned against him gently, the weight of his head resting on Alec's chest. It felt like forgiveness. It felt like an answer without words. Word spread first among the staff, then in town. Photos surfaced of Moyo walking beside Alec, no leash, no guide, just trust. A local paper ran a headline: "The elephant that changed a man." Alec folded the page and tucked it into his back pocket. He didn't believe in headlines, but he believed in Moyo. Janice changed too. She started handing Alec more responsibility, trusting him to supervise interns, guide feeding routines. "Don't make me regret this," she muttered once. Alec just nodded. He wasn't working for her approval anymore. He was working for a creature that had never asked anything of him except honesty. On a rare rainy afternoon, Moyo did something no one had seen before. He reached into the mud with his trunk and pulled out Alec's dropped radio, setting it gently in his lap. "He remembers everything," a volunteer whispered. Alec just smiled. "Yeah, but now, he's choosing what to remember." The transformation wasn't dramatic. There was no applause, no miracle. Just two broken beings, one on two legs, one on four, learning to walk again, together. The real change wasn't in Moyo's leg or Alec's record. It was in the space between them. Steady, quiet, and finally whole. 6 months later, Alec wasn't just a volunteer. He was a full-time staff member. His name was on the feeding schedule, the therapy charts, and even the wall of the visitor center. "Former offender turned keeper," it read. Alec had asked them not to put that part, but Moyo's photo was right beside it, so he let it go. Their routine had become something sacred. Alec arrived before dawn with warm towels and sliced fruit, and Moyo greeted him with a gentle trunk tap to the chest. No fences, no hesitation, just trust. Alec no longer flinched at touch his or Moyo's. The walls around his heart had begun to crumble. Sometimes families came to the sanctuary and recognized Alec. Whispers would start. "That's him." But the judgment in their eyes didn't land like it used to. Not when they saw Moyo curled against Alec in the shade, trunk gently draped over the man's lap like a child's arm in sleep. Janice changed the policy that barred volunteers with criminal records. "Healing isn't one-sided," she told the board. Sometimes the animals are the ones doing the saving. The sanctuary quietly became a second chance for elephants and for people no one else believed in. Alec's son visited once, unannounced. He stood at the fence for a long time, watching his father and the elephant move together like muscle and shadow. "He's the reason I still show up," Alec said softly, motioning to Moyo. His son didn't respond right away, but he didn't walk away either. That day, Alec introduced Moyo. The calf reached his trunk slowly, gently, toward the stranger beside Alec. His son didn't flinch. "He trusts you," the boy said. Alec smiled. "Yeah, took a while." They didn't talk about the accident. But for the first time in years, they didn't talk around it either. On weekends, Alec began leading guided tours telling Moyo's story, but never as a victim. He was trapped, hurt, scared, but he chose to try again. Alec would say. Some visitors cried. Others just listened in silence, clutching the hands of their children a little tighter. In the gift shop, someone hung a framed photo. Alec resting against Moyo's side, both their eyes closed, the sun pouring in like grace. Below it, a quote read, "You don't always choose who saves you. Sometimes they have 4 legs and a memory that never lets go." Now every evening, Alec walks the length of the sanctuary as Moyo trails behind, close but never clingy, just near enough to remind him. The past still echoes, but it no longer defines him. The sun sets slowly, casting long shadows, and 2 of them walk side by side, whole in their brokenness. He didn't just learn how to care for an elephant. He learned how to stand still, how to stay, how to show up. And in doing that, he didn't just save Moyo, he saved the part of himself he thought was lost forever. If this story moved you, consider joining our members club. The link is in the video description. Your support helps us share more real stories of healing, hope, and second chances for humans and animals alike.